Now, political then says here are things that you have to do to make sure that we're not breaking the law at all. Economic, we've already dealt with, because we dealt with that back in chapter 10. So the next one we're interested in is social. And it's simply, all we're talking about when we're talking about social is what might affect. It's things like this will affect demand. So is there going to be a big demand for our products in a particular country? It's also going to affect our workforce. Are there going to be countries where it's going to be easier for us to recruit workers because of the way that they do things? Now, when you're talking about social things, examples of this would be things like, a good example is McDonald's. What happens in McDonald's as it expands around the world? Because obviously McDonald's is in most countries now. Are there going to be issues with the kind of products that it sells? Now, the reason I use this as an example is the first one you've got there, religion. McDonald's has branches in India. And some of you may realise that a slight problem is that many people in India will not eat meat. They will not eat beef, rather, on religious grounds. So McDonald's in India has a different menu. So it has lots of vegetarian food on there. So the idea is religion might mean people don't want your products. Similarly, things like language and work-life balance. McDonald's obviously tends to be busy at early mornings and late nights, so it's very unsociable hours. In a particular country, they might be willing to work unsociable hours, and in another country, they might not be. So McDonald's might want to expand into a particular country and find it almost impossible to get workers who are willing to work there. That, again, is something that McDonald's needs to bear in mind before it makes a decision as to where it's going to go. So, wealth. If we have got a product which is aimed at very wealthy people, then social, you need to think about how many wealthy people there are going to be in a country. Are there a very few people who are very, very rich, or are there lots of people who are relatively rich? Well, the second one might be more appropriate for the kind of products that we sell. So social factors can have an impact on whether we want to expand into another country or not. Over the page, we've got things like life expectancy, etc., etc. So all of these can make a difference. Local tastes and trends. Do people in a particular country want something? Perhaps one of the best examples is clothes. You know, obviously, if you're a clothes manufacturer, let's imagine that you specialise in winter clothes. There's not an awful lot of point in going to the Caribbean and opening up a shop there, because obviously they're not going to be interested. On the other hand, there'll be various parts of the world where you're going to get a lot of customers. So these might well affect, these are the sort of things that affect where you might expand your business. Are there going to be any political things that stop us from expanding into a country? Economic conditions. Is there a recession? Is there a boom? Is it going to be suitable for us to expand? Social. Are we going to get workers and are we going to get customers? Final one we've got, technological. Technological might also affect your organisation. Now you can see here, technology can influence lots of different things. Production. In paper F2, we tend to assume that products are made by people. Well, in real life, they might be made by machinery. So we might have to think about, is there a particular part of our production where we can lose the workers and replace them with machines instead? So can the production methods change? Communication is a big one. You know, there may be industries where being able to communicate is very important. Imagine that I'm in charge of a sales team. I've got 30 salespeople who go around the country selling things to individuals. Now, 30 years ago, it would have been very difficult for me to actually tell them anything. I would probably have to wait for them to telephone me, and then I could talk to them. But now, with mobile phones, with the emails, I can probably get hold of them almost instantaneously. Now, that might make a very big difference to a particular company. It might make very little difference, I don't know. But these are the sort of things that the examiner might test. So he might talk about how has communication changed what you want to do. Imagine, as I say, you've got these salespeople. They go to a company. 30 years ago, the customer says, I want to buy these things. The salesperson says, I will phone up the office and I will find out if they are there. And then I will go back to the office, I will order them for you, I'll send you an invoice. It might take a week or two. Nowadays, the salesperson has a laptop connected to the internet. They can directly access the stock records to know if it's in stock. They can put an order through there and then. The customer can see the order has been placed. The customer can then have an invoice generated. It's all an awful lot faster. So technology can change the way that you do things. So it could well change the structure of an organisation. Now, structure is something we're going to come to later on in the course. But structure basically means things like how many workers we have and what do they actually do. Downsizing is reducing the number of workers. So I have got 3 workers that manufacture something, I replace them with a robot. So that means that I need less workers. That's technology. Delayering means reducing the number of managers. So one of the things we'll talk about in another section is we'll talk about flat organisations. So technology allows you to do that. You don't need as many managers because all that managers basically do is it's all to do with communication. Modern communication, emails, etc., allow you to just go straight from the top and communicate with the person at the bottom. You don't need all the people in between. So technology has allowed people to get rid of lots of middle management levels. And again, we'll talk more about what that is in another section. Outsourcing, getting others to do it. So rather than us doing something, we pay somebody else to do it. So these are all things that have changed. Final bit we've got there, technology and the consumer, changing what people want. Working from home, shopping and banking online. So retail organisations, banks have been changed enormously by technology. I can't remember the last time I actually went to a bank, actually physically went inside it to pay a bill or get some cash because I don't need to. I get my cash from an ATM, so outside the bank, and I pay most of my bills online. So I don't need to go to banks. So it changes the way that people deal with things. Obviously, distance learning, that's quite important to us because that's what you're doing now. This would not have been possible 20 years ago. So it changes the way that people do things. Now, the key thing about PEST is an organisation has to be aware what is changing. Does it affect what we are doing at the moment? Might it affect what we're doing in the future? If it's going to affect what we're doing in the future, we should plan for it now.